Good evening, my name is David Okon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've been talking about the cost of living crisis. I've been linking it to different contexts. Today we will be doing a review of Asia as a continent. We spoke of Africa, we looked at the European Union, which we didn't. We looked at Europe, we looked at other countries like America, with reference to the credit crunch, we have linked this to the cost of living. The cost of living crisis, if you have watched the rest of my video, consistently say it is caused by public policy failure, which is actually an extreme result of practicing extreme version of capitalism, an excessive feat of privatizing the economies of the world, and it's part of globalization, it's part of expanding of capitalism, which actually led to the cost of living crisis. It's about poverty, it's about the majority of the population of the world being excluded, it's about cultural failure, our failure to value humanity. Because if we value humanity, we cannot exclude the majority of the population out of the wealth, keeping them poor by practicing a bad form of capitalism, shutting down public sector and failing to provide public service. And this is the beginning. It will going to get worse. So we need to understand the reason for cost of living crisis. I've chosen to talk about the cost of living crisis as an example of a failed system of government, of public policy, of capitalism. And there are all other crises you can look at the same, like COVID-19, people fighting like in Ukraine, the wars in Ukraine, the wars everywhere, crime, whatever problem you look at, you will find these difficulties, especially where the public sector is failing to provide, the bulk of the public service which is needed by people who cannot really afford services. Look at, if you take security, for example, the police, the military is being privatized, the fire, emergency fire, ambulance is being privatized, which means it will be provided privately to people. The minority of the population who can afford it will access it. The majority who cannot access protection, for example, from the military, are also anything involving the government, as we understand it, in the public context, anything involving that will shut down. The government now has more or less shut down. It's shutting down because, you see, if you sell away wealth of the nation to private individuals, those private individuals are the government. The government is only available when there is an economy related to the government, because the public sector controlled by the state means the government remain a public sector facility, which means the concept of the public means it's there for the people. Now, when you sell away the state, you sell away the economy, you sell away the state to private individuals. I mean, if you are multimillionaires and multi-billionaires who are actually a minority, they are the ones who will be owning the country. So they will be the new government. If we vote for any like MPs or even elect government, that is actually in vain, because they are not in control right now. Government we elect are actually powerless because they have sold off the country. The people with power are now the people with wealth, and they decide what to be done. So our elective government is actually futile, because we are wasting our time. So these individuals potentially going forward who buy the countries, the continents of the world, own it privately, will decide who lives and who dies. In the sense that if a rich person, the owner of the world, including technology, including engineering, they will be owning all those things. If they decide somebody should stay alive, they will then allow access to resources, because people cannot survive without accessing resources. People will not access resources if it is owned privately, because whoever owns private is his private property. If they don't give you anything now, it means in the future there is no reason why they will give to people they want to give. And that is exactly what is happening. That's the future. It's a major problem. It's happening because we do not longer value humanity as a priority. I know we need to value everything in life, but what I'm saying, we need to value humanity first. Then we are going to make peace. If we play with our life, we are going to go extinct. We may not care about that, but if you care about this, pay attention, because we need to work together. It's your life, it's our life. That's why I'm talking, because it's about peace. Without peace, life is meaningless. You see, it's like a bomb is being dropped and you're not running away to save your life. It's like you don't care about your life. Whether you're homeless, you don't care about your children, whether they die or live. If you really care, and you do, pay attention to this, what I'm talking about, because it's a very serious matter. It's about globalization, it's about capitalism, it's about failure to understand the value of society by a group of individuals who decide to take away wealth from the majority of the population, concentrated in their hands for reason of politics, power, and greed. This is wrong, and that's why I'm talking. And I'll be using literature material. I'm going to look at Asia as a continent, and do a review of the material. Let us look at Asia then. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed, and share with family and friends, and continue to support it. And leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking. So the area of Asia is 44,579,000 square kilometers, 17,212,000 square miles. This is the first, the biggest in the world. The population of Asia is 4.694 billion, 579,167 people. So it's about Asia is about 4.5 billion people. Also number first, the most popular in terms of density, 100 per square mile and 200 square kilometers, 260 per square mile. GDP average is it's 72.7 trillion US dollar. Number one, also the richest in the world, continent of Asia, the richest in the world. It's impressive. So the cost of living should not be there in theory, but like we show with the rest of the continent and the rest of the countries, that may not be the case. See, look at what our Asia is doing. GDP nominal is 32 trillion. Number one, also GDP per capita 8,890, the fourth, okay, in terms of individual wealth. Religion, Islam is actually 28%. So Asia is actually Islamic nation. Hinduism 22.8%. People without religion actually 13.9%. Chinese folk religion 9.7%. Christianity is only 8.4%. So Asia is less of a Christian country than the rest of the world. Ethnic religions are actually 3.5%. New religions 1.3%, and others actually 1.3%. If you come from Asia, you are referred to as you are an Asian. And there are languages listed. Let me see. Sorry. They are non-UN states, which means the United Nations doesn't apply in Asia. In terms of dependency, there's no dependency. But if go back a bit, sorry about that. Asia has 49 countries. Let's say there are 49 countries. United Nations members actually are 49. One UN observer, 5 other states. So it's also a member of the United Nations. 49 countries are actually member of the United Nations. So you have about 50 countries, 49 of them are actually under the UN membership. There are dependencies, we don't have information there. List of languages, we don't have that information. Time zone is UTC plus 0 to UTC plus 12. So internet, LTT.Asia, UN M49 code 142 Asia 001 the world, the rest of the world. So some of this information are actually, you can find a bit more, but I'm just looking at it generally. So Asia is the most populous where what as I said. So Asia is the largest continent, like I said, and it is the largest in the world by both area and population. It covers an area of more than 44 million square kilometers, about 30% of the Earth's total land area and 8% of the Earth's total surface area. The continent, which has long been home to the majority of the human population, was the site of many of the first civilizations. Its 4.7 billion people constitute roughly 60% of the world population, having more people than other continents combined. Asia shares landmarks with Eurasia, with Europe, and with Afro-Eurasia, with both Europe and Africa. In general terms, it is bounded on the east by the Pacific Ocean, on the south by the Indian Ocean, and on the north by the Arctic Ocean. So the border of Asia with Europe is a historical and cultural construct. There is no clear physical and geographical separation between them. It is somewhat arbitrary and has moved since its conception in classical antiquity. The division of Eurasia into two continents reflects east-west cultural, linguistic, and ethnic differences, some of which vary on a spectrum rather than with a sharp dividing line. If you have been to Asia, leave a comment below. Let me know what your experience was going to Asia. A commonly accepted division places Asia to the east and of the Suez Canal, separating it from Africa, and to the east of the Turkish Straits, the Ural Mountains and Ural River, and to the south of the Caucasus Mountains, Caucasus Mountains, and the Caspian and Black Sea, separating it from Europe. This is some of the description of Asia. China and India are alternated in being the largest economies in the world. Are the largest countries, economic power, and attracted mainly to the east. And China was a major economic power and attracted mainly to the east, and for many of the legendary wealth and prosperity of the ancient culture of India personified Asia, attracting European commerce, exploration, and colonialism. The ancient discovery of a transatlantic route from Europe to America by Columbus, while the accidental discovery of a transatlantic route from Europe to America by Columbus while in search of for a route to India demonstrate this deep fascination. So America, as we know, the United States of America was discovered by accident by Christopher Columbus. He was looking for routes into Asia to do trading, because Asia was a very vibrant trading region at that time. The Silk Road became the main east-west trading route in the Asian hinterland, while the Strait of Malacca stood a major sea route. Asia has exhibited economic dynamism, particularly in East Asia, as well as a robust population growth during the 20th century, but overall population growth has seen fallen. Asia was the birthplace of most of the world's mainstream religions, including Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Jainism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, as well as many other religions. We talk about Asia linking the same with the cost of living crisis. The cost of living, like I said, is an economic issue involving wealth and how that wealth is shared between states, between nations, and between individuals in the country. And I would say that because capitalism is becoming global and the concentrating wealth more into the hands of the few rather than the many. So I'm trying to look at Asia as a background to find out what is happening there in terms of the cost of living crisis. Cost of living crisis is an illustrative of a problem of capitalism and failure to manage economy in a fair way. Given its size and diversity, the concept of Asia, a name dating back to antiquity, may actually have more to do with human geography than physical geography. Asia varies greatly across and within its regions with regard to ethnic groups, cultures, and environment, economics, and historical ties, and government system. It also has a mix of many different climates ranging from the equatorial south via the hot desert in the Middle East, temperate areas in the east and continental center to vast subarctic and popular areas in Siberia. We talk about wealth of the nation. Every country has a wealth and it's located in one way, one place or another. But one thing defines them both, all of them, is the system of globalization, which is actually now being operated by capitalism. And as we look at the definition, the boundaries, the borders, the geography of Asia, boundary between a continent, transcontinental countries, Asia, Europe, and Copenhagen, within the Copenhagen criteria, Asia, Africa, has a boundary, they share boundaries with Africa. The boundary between Asia and Africa is the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Suez, and the Suez Canal. This makes Egypt a transcontinental country with the Sinai Peninsula in Asia and the remainder of the country in Africa. Asia-European boundary. So the boundaries between Europe and Asia within different periods of history, the commonly accepted modern definition mostly fits with the line V and F. It image the threefold division of the old world into Europe, Asia, and Africa has been in use since the 6th century BCE due to Greek geographers such as Anaximandr and Hecataios. Anaximandr placed the boundary between Asia and Europe along the Phasis River, the modern Rioni River in Georgia and Caucasus, from its mouth by the Poti on the Black Sea coast through the Surami Pass and along the Kura River to the Caspian Sea. Convention was still followed by Herodotus in the 5th century BCE. These are some of the outlook, the history, the background of Asia, to give you an idea what kind of continent it looks like. During the Hellenistic period, this convention was revised, and the boundary between Europe and Asia was now considered to be the Tanais, the modern Don River. This is the convention used by Roman era authors such as Posidonius, Strabo, and Ptolemy. And some ancient information, very old. Actually, the border between Asia and Europe was historically defined by European academics. The Don River became unsatisfactory to northern Europeans. When Peter the Great, king of the Sodom of Russia, defeating rival claims of Sweden and the Ottoman Empire, the eastern lands, and armed resistance by the tribe of Siberia, synthesized a new Russian empire extending to the Ural Mountains and beyond, founded in 1721. There appears to be on this material so many weasel words which are actually indistinctive, which are the kind of material I'm not really into. I don't like it very much. In Sweden, 5 years after Peter's death, in 1730, Philip Johann von Steinbach published a new atlas proposing the Ural Mountains. They talk about how the topography, some outlook, background on Asia. So Tashishev announced that he had proposed the idea of von Steinbach. The latter suggested the Emba River as the lower boundary. Over the next century, various proposals were made until the Ural River prevailed in the mid-16th century. The language used is really so random, so to speak. The way the English language is used here is not really it's not complete. It's very it's not very attractive to me. Over the next century, various proposals were made until the Ural River prevailed in the 19th century. The border has been moved from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, into which the Ural River projects. The border between the Black Sea and the Caspian is usually placed along the crest of Caucasus Mountain, though it is sometimes placed further. There is a lot of struggling in writing this material by the author, but what he's trying to say is where Asia is located, the boundary between Africa and Asia, and the boundary between Europe and Asia. But I think he struggled to manipulate the use of language effectively. So let's look at Asia-Oceania boundary. The border between Asia and the region of Oceania is usually placed somewhere in the Indonesian archipelago. So I'm actually suffering a little bit of cold, as you can see. Can't help myself. Can't help myself. It's unfortunately. Normally I'm allergic to certain things. So. The Maluku Islands are often considered to lie on the border of Southeast Asia, with Indonesia, New Guinea to the east of the island being only part of the Oceania. Oceania is considered a separate continent, but sometimes they are grouped together with Asia and Europe. I think it's considered to be a separate boundary. The term Southeast Asia and Oceania, devised in the 19th century, had several vastly different geographical meanings since their inception. The key factor in determining which islands of the Indonesian archipelago are Asian has been the location of the colonial possessions of the various empires there are not only themselves. Because you see, the history of Asia is similar to the rest of the world in terms of its formation, because mainly they were formed due to force and violence. And you see in imperialism, colonialism, there is a little change because of our failure to live peacefully. Louis and Wiggins assert the narrowing of Southeast Asia to its present boundaries was thus a gradual process. The reason I'm looking at countries, geography, politics, society, environment, all these factors, the reason I'm looking is because my argument about the cost of living crisis is that it is caused by the economic and political system, including its policy. If it was not for government failure to provide a public sector, there wouldn't be the cost of living crisis. Therefore, my proposition is also that if the government changes public policy objectives and its application, then the cost of living will not occur going forward. But the operation of public sector should happen in such a way as to take the majority of the population out of poverty, because poverty is the one causing the cost of living. We can focus on the cost of living in isolation, or maybe we can claim the cost of living is being caused by the war in Ukraine, which is not true, or any other factor. But the only thing causing cost of living is failure of capitalism, which is shutting down the public sector. Failure of this public sector to provide public service, keeping the majority of the population in poverty. So poverty is the cause of the cost of living crisis. And wherever it occurs, including in Asia, which we will see when we begin to look at, we are now looking at the history of Asia, which way it was created, through violence, through force. The reason why there is a problem in any country because of cultural failure, and this cultural failure meant that culturally we have become very violent. People with power actually use power to enslave the majority of the population, which is also what would be happening in Asia. And by going through Asia to look at how it was created, already we have seen traces of violence in the material we are trying to go through. It wasn't created peacefully as the continent or as countries within Asia. There were force, there was slavery, there was violence, there was a lot of killing, a lot of people died in Asia, in Europe, in the world wars. So that is the purpose for my speaking within those regions of the world. And precisely saying the cost of living as a crisis is actually a symptom of something worse happening in the world, which is a form of violence, a form of lawlessness, rebellion, those in power enslaving that people, those out of power actually rebelling, resisting to try to get break free. But now capitalism has weaponized wealth to generate power with which to oppress the many, which oppression is exercised by those in power who are by nature the made to feel. So the ruling elites have actually conspired to enslave the masses, if you like, the majority, and they use wealth to oppress the many. And that's why the system of capitalism is designed to exclude the majority from accessing wealth, thereby keeping them perpetually in poverty, so that they can be enslaved, so that they can be abused. And this evil in the world, politics, economic, is created by cultural failure. Our refusing to put humanity first, to value our lives, to value the life of other fellow humans over and above anything else, including upper power. Because we value power, we value wealth, we value incidences like slavery, means of creating wealth and power more than human life. As simple as that. That's why the personal living crisis is a symptom of violence and what I can only describe as terrorism. Because if you begin to understand the way systems work and the way people treat each other, we, even people who are now victims of terrorism, are potential terrorists. Because terrorism simply means you persecute people. And it's a lot of persecution. Look at Israel and Hamas. Israel is a state, is a legalized form of terrorism. It's a terrorism. Israel is actually terrorist. All the countries of the world are terrorists because they kill people, they oppress people, they use power to abuse. They have created a system of slavery, and it's going to get worse. With technology is going to be weaponized, and it's going to accelerate the rate of human destruction by humans. And this is not to accuse, to actually pick out, it's not to really target how to kind of like single out those in power, although they take responsibility because they're in power. The multi-billionaires, and their friends in government, they empower, they take the lion's share of responsibility. But the majority who are outside power, who are actually excluded and who suffer poverty by deliberate, because if you want to enslave somebody, you create a condition so that they depend on you all the time. And the system works very effectively because the majority, over 90% of the population, are systematically prevented from accessing wealth. Because wealth is equal to power. You see, if you are in power, you cannot commit power suicide by empowering your enemies, who are the majority of the population. They are your enemies. If you give them power, they're going to come and overthrow you, and that is true. Because poor people are no different from rich people. They are evil because they are culturally uneducated. We are evil people. We are very evil because we fight. If we were not evil, we were not going to fight. You wouldn't fight. I mean, if somebody is civil, they would be evil. If you're civil, you don't even swear. You don't even, every time you punch somebody or you say bad word, verbal fighting at home, you shout at your children, you abuse your family, you rape women if you're mad, or if you're a woman, you kind of like do bad things to men, or to your husband, or to your family. That is what's happening. It's real. It's a humanitarian crisis. Those in power are responsible, because they control the instrument of power, but they don't know what to do. Because, you see, they live in fear, and they are right to be in fear, because power is the only source of their livelihood. They use power to oppress, and oppression and violence will keep them alive in position of power temporarily. But in the end, society will fall apart. And it's going to be a destruction, a destroying of everyone and everything in the world. That is where we are heading. And my proposition is that we need to stop and begin to learn the cultural economy, which is actually beginning to value humanity. That's a priority. And I've said this over and over, and I'm happy I've been saying it. Because I believe it's the antidote to bring peace. Without peace, we will not succeed, or we will be destroyed. Let alone that aging and even accidents or diseases are killing us as humans. But it's going to be a time when you visit the house from somewhere else, you find that maybe they are only animals. Animals may even die. Trees may also be dying. I mean, you may find a land which is totally desolate of people, or trees, of animals. You will see barrenness everywhere. because of our offenses. And our offenses are distributed across all the continent. That's why I'm looking at Asia now to actually give you a picture of how Asia was created. It was created by violence, and it is being ruled by violence, and it is going to be destroyed by violence. Same in Asia, the same across the globe. The answer to that question of preservation, with self-preservation of humanity and of the world, is learning human culture for cultural economy. Respecting yourself. Respect comes with value. We value everything, and we are right to do that. That's why we have what we've got because of value. Whatever we have is because we value it, including wealth, including knowledge, including education. We value social media. That's why we participate in it, which is a good thing. What I'm saying about humanity is we change the priority. I'm not saying we don't value humanity, we do. But because it is not our priority. And that is the problem. Humans are no longer prioritizing humans. Human, it doesn't come first by terms of valuing. Because if we did, human would be number one in our life, whether we are poor or rich, whether we are slaves or masters. Then slavery will stop. Capitalism will begin to produce peace. Peace, the first goal under capitalism is to get poor people out of wealth. That may not change our cultural system. Our cultural system can be changed by education and applying the knowledge gained through education of value of humanity, which brings respect for yourself and others, their property and our people. I don't expect everyone to be rich in under the current system. For everybody to be equal in terms of wealth or in other kind of status, we need to dismantle the system, the current system. And we cannot do that because the dismantling of the system now means committing suicide because we depend on the system. We can't destroy the system. We only need to treat it. And it's going to be real that as long as the system exists the way it does, as long as a group of people still want to rule over other people, there will be inequality. Inequality is not going to go away, including wealth. Wealth, what I'm asking now, we need to use the public sector as a starting point. We have to bring it back as a starting point and balance that to get the majority of the population out of poverty. But the most important thing, the most critical thing is that for the governments of the world to come together and start a system of education, which is its main objective is to focus on humanity, to value humanity first. If we can achieve that, even as an idea in society, if we establish that as an idea, as an instrument of peace building, peace access, then, in my opinion, we will begin the process of peace building. And also, as long as we set the system well, we learn as a priority at home, community, places of work, education, in government, everywhere we operate, we put as a mantra that we value humanity first. We put humanity over and above anything else as a priority and valuing it. I believe this is going to be that we start the process of building society. We are going to be more peaceful, fighting less, and the more peace we acquire, the more society will evolve to dismantle the system of power of individuals wanting to rule over other people. Because that is actually the primary source of violence. It is also what is going to cause our extinction. Individuals want to rule over, the few want to rule over the many. The many do not want to be free. Freedom means the government shuts down. But shutting down now, we are doing it without addressing the human problem, which is actually disrespect, which is failing to value humanity. Our minds are really corrupted. With a corrupted mind, we cannot really solve any problem regarding peace. What we are doing now using capitalism is actually we are making things worse because we are actually excluding the majority of the population. It's like we are saying we are going to kill the rest of the population and leave only a few people to bring peace. That is not going to happen. You can kill the 90% of the population by excluding them from their resources. But the few remaining will also kill each other because the actual problem hasn't been addressed. Whether there are only 2 people left, they're going to kill each other. Reducing the population of the world is not the answer. The teaching, education is the answer. And you know what to teach. Respect for humans. It may sound stupid, but because it involves our minds are designed to do marvelous things. If we believe in something, we will achieve it, even without anything. Our minds, our lives as humanity is complete. We have enough. We know what to do with resources. We have seen how successful we have been along the front of development. We have acquired knowledge, technology, and we are said government very effective. We can unite if we want to. And if we unite, yes, we can be able to do that, be strong. But we can also achieve perfection because we are humans. Our brains are designed. We are actually perfect. We are perfectly formed. All we need to do is we adjust, put the right kind of information on our minds, on our brains, and prioritizing humanity first. If we can put that into our head and begin to generate strength and power using that information, then we begin the process of changing the way we see life, then building the relationship, and also winning over, gaining confidence in humanity, because now we don't trust people. We call them strangers. We lock ourselves in the house because we are afraid of humanity, and we are right because our mind is distorted. Mentally, we are actually so confused. We need to clean our minds and put in new information about humanity. Humans first, other things second. Value yourself, value others. It may not sound like much, but it's the central key to change, to bringing peace, changing the way we believe, changing the way we think, and producing a type of knowledge and information, and gaining knowledge which says people really are convinced in their head that humanity is the priority, and respect to humanity is number one. Respecting other things, including animals, wildlife, trees, we respect them, we value them, but humans count first. Once this information is actually recalibrated into our mind, we begin to produce power. This power is actually mental power with knowledge, which is transformative to modify our behavior and build character around our profile, build new relationships, and start building peace and happiness. And that's the way to survive. We begin to use technology now accurately to achieve whatever we want, including immortality. We don't have to, we can create immortality, but you see, if for any reason we create immortality now when we are culturally still immature, we are infant, we are going to immortalize monsters. Which means we suffer, we die, we don't die, we come back to life, we suffer because culturally we will not have achieved the stability, or even, I don't know if equanimity is the right word. We need to achieve that peace. That peace, that sense of enlightenment, that sense of doing the right thing, having to do the right thing. We don't fight anymore. That is the meaning of peace. That is why I've been talking about this, let us go back to this material because it helps us to guide us through the world. It may not look like what it is doing, but it has been working for me. Looking at, because there are a lot of similarities in what is in Asia, in Europe, Africa, America, all these different continents are similar or the same. Because the way they were created, the way they were developed, the way they were put together is the same. Let's look at Asia, North America boundary. We're still looking at the boundaries of Asia. This time we're looking at Asia, North American boundary, because we also border North America. The Bering Strait and Bering Sea separate the land masses of South and North America, as well as forming the international boundary between Asia and the United States. The national and the continental boundaries separate the Diomede Islands in the Bering Strait, with Big Diomede in Russia and Little Diomede in the United States. The Aleutian Islands are an island chain extending westwards from the Alaskan Peninsula toward Russia's Komandovsky Island and Kamchatka Island, a peninsula. You comment below if you have been to Asia. Let me know what you like about Asia and what you might not like in Asia. Most of them are always associated with North America, except for the westernmost near island groups, which is on Asia's continental shelf beyond the North Aleutian Basin, and on rare occasions could be associated with Asia, which could then allow the U.S. state of Alaska, as well as the United States itself, to be considered a transcontinental state. The Aleutian Islands are sometimes associated with Oceania, owing to their status as remote Pacific islands and their proximity to the Pacific plate. This is extremely rare. However, due to their non-tropical biogeography, as well as their inhabitants, who have historically been related to indigenous Americans. St. Lawrence Islands is the northern Bering Sea, belongs to Alaska, and may be associated with either continent, but is almost always considered part of North America, as well as with the Rat Islands in the Aleutian chain. At their nearest point, Alaska and Russia are separated only by 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles. To serve with the information on Asia, leave a comment below, subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed. Let me know what you think about Russia. Linking the same to the rest of the continent, and linking this information with the cost of living crisis, which I already have said is caused by the system of government, politics, and economy. If there were no poverty in the world, there would be no cost of living crisis. Poverty is created deliberately by people in power for purposes of maintenance of status quo in power, and also for purposes of oppressing the many to keep them into slavery forever. Thereby, the ruling class are mistakenly convinced that by destroying the many, the few remaining will preserve humanity in power, but they are wrong. What I have said is instead, for now, for the government to reinstate public sector and public services to get the majority of the population out of poverty, and in so doing, They will allow a breathing space for humanity, especially the oppressed many by the dictators who are actually the ruling emperors, the multimillionaires and the multimillionaires who are actually monsters at the top, who are actually ruling potential monsters at the bottom. They're ruling over the many who are potential monsters. Remember, I said we are both monsters, either in actuality as in the multimillionaires and the multi-billionaires rulers, who are ruling over the potential monsters who are poor, the 90 to 95% of the population who now feature in the cost of living crisis as victims, and this is the real world. But the answer to the question of the humanitarian crisis, which is shown under the jurisdiction of capitalistic economic and political system, these can be corrected by visiting our cultural economy and learning the value of humanity as a priority and changing the way we think thereat, and acquiring new mode of thinking and also acquiring new body of knowledge with which to exercise the process of change and bringing, prospectively bringing fairness, equality, and eventually producing what we can only know as peaceful world. Leave a comment below if you follow what I'm saying. Leave a comment below also if you are not. We're here to talk to each other. A bit of a monologue right now, but that is okay. Let's look at the ongoing definition of Europe, Afro-Asia shown in material here. Geographical Asia is a cultural artifact of European conception of the world, beginning with the ancient Greeks, being imposed on other cultures, and imprecise concept causing endemic contention about what it means. Asia does not exactly correspond to the cultural borders of its various types of consistency. From the time of Herodotus, a minority of geographers obviously rejected the three-continent system, Europe, Asia, Africa, on the grounds that there is no substantial physical separation between them. For example, Sabari Cunliffe, the emeritus professor of European archaeology at Oxford, argues that Europe has been geographically and culturally merely the western excrescence of the continent of Asia. Geographically, Asia is the major eastern constituent of the continent of Eurasia, with Europe being a northwestern peninsula of the landmass. Comment below if you have been to Asia. Let me know your thoughts about Asia, linking this piece of information with the cost of living crisis, which crisis is caused by poverty, created willfully by the system. The ruling elites, multimillionaires and multi-billionaires, having created conditions of segregation between the rich, the have and the have-nots. The few of the have, the ruling few, and the enslaved many who now languishes. The many now languishing in poverty, as being featured as victims of incidences such as the cost of living crisis. The solution is to include development, where the state at least tries to get the many out of poverty. Continue to oppress them as they should until we gain humanitarian enlightenment throughout the ages. But the process of of accessing enlightenment culturally will begin with education, teaching our minds to change our mindset about people, prioritizing humanity and valuing humanity first and valuing other factors second, third. That is the key to change toward peace processing and also achieving survivability of humanity. This is what I have been saying, and this is what I also say again. So as we look at Asia and see how Asia fares as a continent in terms of the plane of politics and economy, and like I said previously, Asia, Europe, Africa, the rest of the globe is practicing a system of power known as capitalism. Almost all of Europe and a major part of Asia sit atop the Eurasian plate and joined on the south by the Arabian and Indian plate, and with the easternmost part of Siberia, east of the Sarsky Range, on the North American plate. So look at the languages describing Asia, how the names develop, how we now begin to understand the information, how we named Asia. The term Asia is believed to originate in the Bronze Age place name Asuwa, Hittite, Romanized Asuwa, which originally referred only to a portion of northwestern Anatolia. You can comment below if you've been to Asia. Let me know what your thoughts are. The term appears in Hittite records recounting how Confederation of Aswan states, including Troy, successfully rebelling against the Hittite king Tudela the First around 1400 BCE. This is some of the history involving the rebuilding of Asia as a continent. Roughly contemporary Linear B documents contain the terms Assyria, Mycenaean Greek, Romanized Assyria, seemingly in reference to captives from the same area. Talk about slavery, talk about violence, the capitalizing of the global economy, which is still continuing, which is actually the cause of the cost of living crisis. And this is the evidence we find in Asia, the historical, the way Asia was constructed as a continent, with violence, with the rule of force, and all the rest of it. The province of Asia lies in rape within the Roman Empire. Talk about the Roman Empire, these were actually the powers which ruled the world. Herodotus used the term Asia in reference to Anatolia, the territory of the Persian Empire, in contrast to Greece and Egypt. He reports that Greeks assumed that Asia was named after the wife of Prometheus, but that Lydians say was named after Asius, son of Cotys, who passed the name on to the tribe of Sardis. This is history. Human beings are known to give names. The Iliad, attributed by the ancient Greeks to Homer, mentioned two Phrygians in the Trojan Asian, and also a marsh or lowland containing a marsh in Lydia as Asiok. According to many Muslims, the term came from ancient Egypt's Queen Asiya, the adoptive mother of Moses. I've seen in Africa how to demonstrate that there's a strong possibility that the Egyptian kingdom with the pharaohs was actually a black civilization. And also possibly is actually a kingdom of the Luo people, which Luo people are actually the ancestors of Barack Obama of America, former US President of America from Kenya in East Africa. So black people are actually most likely responsible for modern civilization beginning in Africa. So when you say Queen Asiya, Asiya is probably a Luo name. Who adopted the mother of Moses. Moses is in the Bible, in Exodus, Israel. The children of Israel is in Israel, as we know. So the term was later adopted by the Romans, who used it in reference to the province of Asia, located in western Anatolia. One of the the first writers to use Asia as a name of the whole country was Pliny. In languages of the Chinese character cultural sphere, words related to the character Yazia are used. These has been characterized as implying an inferiority of the continent as meaning inferior. However, it is a mere phonetic representation. There are debates among the researchers, intellectual academics as to how the name originated. History of Asia. The Silk Road connected civilization across Asia. Silk is a form of fabric, I would say, has been instrumental in bringing civilization in Asia, the globe. The globe was connected then in terms of trade and empire building then as now under modern day capitalism. Capitalism will find its root in ancient days of trading, power brokerage, slavery and mastery, which is what still continues with who the cost of living in today's world, which I'm talking about. And speaking of the cost of living, to illustrate the deeper issues of society, politics, economic, environment, wealth, politics, like I said, laws, system of the constitution, policy, public policy, public services, privatization, marketization, all these factors are of society under contemporary capitalism, which actually provide the atmosphere, the environment which create the cost of living crisis. Look at civilization across Asia. The Mongol Empire at its greatest extent. The gray area is the later Timurid Empire. The history of Asia can be seen as a distinct histories of several peripheral coastal regions. East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, West Asia linked by the interior mass of the Central Asian steppes. The coastal periphery was home to some of the world's earliest known civilizations, each of them developing around fertile river valleys. Fertile river valleys have been the story of sedimentation globally, people growing grains and setting civilization around where water and fertile lands occurs. The civilization in Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, the Yellow River shared many similarities. These civilizations may well have exchanged technologies and ideas such as mathematics and the wheel. Mathematics originated in Egypt, so was language. Mathematics and language together combining to produce technology in ancient days as well as in contemporary decades. These civilizations may well have exchanged technologies and ideas such as mathematics and the wheel. Other innovations such as writing seem to have been developed individually in each area. Cities, states, and empires developed in these lowlands. Same story in Asia, in the rest of the globe, especially in Africa, the Central Steppe region long been inhabited by host mounted nomads who could reach all around areas of Asia from the steppe. Nomads are actually land settlers. The Wild West is an example of nomadic lifestyle. They move from place to place. As raiders, they were mainly thieves and terrorists. If you measure them by modern standard, all of them would qualify for terrorism. These are the ones who pioneered what we now know as modern economic and political and social system under capitalism. The earliest postulated expansion out of the steppe is that of the Europeans who spread their languages into the Middle East, South Asia, and the borders of China, where the Tocharians resided. The northernmost part of Asia, including much of Siberia, was largely inaccessible to the steppe nomads owing to the dense forest, climate, and tundra. So they were protected. The sedented population were protected from nomads. Nomads were raiders, they were thieves. They still exist in the world today, in Africa, in other parts of the world. They don't settle very easily, they are thieves. They actually raid food, animals, they destroy homes, they were dangerous murderers. There was species of human who would have, they should have been extinct. And there could have probably been some semblance of peace, but they were so reckless that they were so warlike. They only learned actually how to fight. At sea, on land, in villages, they were terrorists. They terrorized society such as we cannot even imagine today. They were actually aliens. Because humans may behave like that if they are so evil. And nomads were so horrible. They still are. So to speak. And that's the history of Europe, of Asia rather, but also you find them in Africa and the rest as well. Because we are humans anyway. So the earliest, what do we say? The northernmost part of Asia, including much of Siberia, was largely inaccessible to the steppe nomads, owing to the dense forest, the climate, and tundra. These areas remain very sparsely populated. If you're isolated in a remote area, you're protected, so you can actually settle and form simple communities. Kingdoms emerging eventually from sedentated communities who are more civil than the nomads because they were sedentary. The center and the peripheries were mostly kept separated by mountains and deserts. The Caucasus and Himalaya mountain and the Karakum and Gobi deserts form barriers that steppe horsemen could cross only with difficulty. These were actually natural barriers which protected people who settled, and they prevented the prevalence of raiders as found with nomads. While the urban city dwellers were more advanced technologically and sexually, in many cases they could do little in the military aspect to defend against the mounted hordes of the steppe. You see, settlers build cities and towns and they build the economy, the wealth. Raiders formed the military bands. So the combining of the two worked out. There became, if you're a rich person, you hire raiders to protect your property. from other regions. That's how modern militarism was created. Cities and towns were created to store people and their estates, their wealth. That's how cities and towns were built, and the military system was built, and also modern system of government. Government was actually the sole responsibility of the legal system, the development of the law, which actually worked to build, to create states and their governments as we now know. However, the lowlands did not have enough open grasslands to support a large horse-bound force. With these and other regions, the nomads who conquered states in China, India, and the Middle East often found themselves adapting to the local, more affluent societies, like I said. Islamic caliphates, defeats of the Byzantine and Persian empires led to West Asia and southern parts of Central Asia and western parts of South Asia under its control during its conquest of the 7th century. The Mongol Empire conquered a large part of Asia in the 13th century, an area extending from China to Europe. Before the Mongol invasion, Song dynasty reportedly had approximately 120 million citizens. The 1300 census, which followed the invasion, reported roughly 60 million people. Civilization started many decades ago, and today we are actually building on what our ancestors created, including in Asia. So the Russian Empire began to expand into Asia from the 17th century and would eventually take control of all the Siberia and most of Central Asia by the end of the 19th century. The Ottoman Empire controlled Anatolia, most of the Middle East, North Africa, and the Balkans from the mid-16th century onwards. In the 17th century, the Manchu conquered China and established the Qing dynasty. The Islamic Mughal Empire and the Hindu-Maratha Empire controlled much of India in the 16th and the 18th century respectively. So, civilization was built on violence, conquest and counter-conquest. Western European colonization of Asia coincided with the Industrial Revolution in the West and the dethroning of India and China as the world's foremost economies. The British Empire became dominant in South Asia, with large parts of the region first being conquered by British traders before falling under the direct British rule. Extreme poverty doubled to about 50% during this era. As I said, if the greater power conquers, it establishes a system of slavery and also of imperialism. And the conquered people are oppressed by the conquering, and they are exploited. People are turned into slaves and treated very harshly. That's what the British did when they achieved the Industrial Revolution to conquer the world, including in Asia, the conquest in Asia, Europe, Africa, and also America. So that's the history of Britain. There was forced violence that still carries on. The Middle East was contested and partitioned by the British and French, while Southeast Asia was carved up between the British, Dutch, and French. Various Western powers dominated China in what later became known as the Century of Humiliation, with the British supported opium trade and later opium wars resulting in China being forced into an unprecedented situation of importing more than it exported. Britain, with its power, imposed the rule on selling opium on China because it was actually a source of generation. Today, those in power are avid drug dealers and also what do I say? I mean, the history of crime is still alive and kicking. but they do it under the scene, so they are not, whether they are caught, the people in power are actually drug dealers. If this day it was then, it's now. But you shouldn't talk about it. If you talk about it, you are going to be killed or destroyed. You're not allowed to speak about this. So much for freedom and democracy. You see, democracy and freedom cannot succeed unless we revisit our culture and change the way we think, our beliefs, our precepts of life. Putting humanity first, because it's simple as that. If you respect somebody, you don't really abuse them. And if it is part of your character, then we have succeeded as a species. The opposite is the truth. Failing to admit cultural economy through education into our society will spell disaster sooner rather than later. We see it with the cost of living crisis, with all the other crises, failure of the public sector, deliberate impoverishing the slaves by masters. In history and today, same yesterday, the same today, going to go worse in the future. No peace for the wicked. Foreign domination of China, further by the Empire of Japan, which controlled most of East Asia and much of Southeast Asia, New Guinea, and the Pacific Islands. During this era, Japan's domination was enabled by its rapid rise that had taken place during the Meiji era of the late 19th century, in which it applied industrial knowledge learned from the West and thus overtook the rest of Asia. With the end of World War II in 1945 and the wartime ruination of Europe and Imperial Japan, many countries in Asia were able to rapidly free themselves of colonialism. One freedom led to another despotism. Free yourself from foreign dominion only to establish the same system of oppression to oppress your own people, such as now seen in countries in Asia, Europe, America, and Africa. The independence of India came along with the carving out of the separate nation for the majority of Indian Muslims, which today has become the countries Pakistan and Bangladesh. So Pakistan of today and Bangladesh were in the past Asia, India, but they were divided along the line of faith, religion. Some Arab countries took economic advantage of massive oil deposits that were discovered in their territory, becoming globally influential. East Asian nations, along with Singapore in Southeast Asia, became economically prosperous with high growth, tiger economies, with China regaining its place among the top 2 economies of the world by the 21st century. India has grown significantly because of economic liberalization that started in the 1990s, with the extreme poverty now below 20%. What happened in India was actually capitalization of the society, which now has brought some of the worst form of class system in the world. The rich in China, in India are obscenely rich, and the poverty in pockets of Kenyan society, of Indian society, is grossly obscene. You would think you are in a third world country in Africa, one of the poorest countries in the world, but you are in one of the richest countries in the globe. That is what happened. What capitalism is a thing called the caste system in India, which is the most evil anywhere in the world. And India needs an urgent surgery to learn cultural economy, respecting its people, respecting itself culturally as a society. They should stop living here like wild dogs, practicing evils. The rich, the few getting richer. The majority are actually left in language, living like wild dogs. The the threefold division of the old world into Europe, Asia, and Africa has been in use since the 6th century BCE due to Greek geographers such as Anaximander and Hecataeus. Colorful names, very stylish. 1825 map of Asia by Sidney Edwards Moores. Map of Western and Southern and Central Asia in 1885. Map of Asia in 1796, which also included the continent of Australasia, then known as New Holland. Australia was populated actually by Europeans. 1890 map of Asia, geography. We're going to stop this material and pick up from where we stopped today and look at Asia in our disposition. See you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.